Mirrors, like many other horror movies of the 2000s, is based on a Korean horror movie. In this US remake, which was shot in Romania but hides it really well, Kiefer Sutherland plays Ben Carson. Not to be confused with the Ben Carson who is currently and unqualifyingly the Secretary for Housing and Urban Development. And he's not to be confused with Kiefer Sutherland, who played the Secretary for Housing and Urban Development on the TV show Designated Survivor. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk for how to write useless IMDb trivia. Our Ben Carson has a tragic backstory where his former cop life went wrong, and now he's split from his wife and family as a result. He takes a job as a security guard for a department store that's been severely damaged by a fire, and right away, things get real. Real spooky, that is. There's no build-up, no parlor tricks, no bullshit. These ghosts mean business, and it's spooky as hell on his first night on the job, as something sinister is using mirrors to manipulate the real world. Now, the reasons he stays to endure this stuff are super thin at first, especially after almost immediately hitting a breaking point.
Fuck this place.
But his cop instincts kick in and he wants to figure out exactly what the heck is going on. Then, when the demons murder his sister and attack his family, he has no choice but to stick it out and prove that there's something evil going on with the mirrors. And while I'm not going to show the scene, boy, Amy Smart playing Kiefer's sister goes out earlier than I would have expected, and also in one of the most disturbingly goofy death scenes I've witnessed lately. You gotta see it. Mirrors ultimately becomes one of those horror movies where ghosts are doing spooky things because of an unfortunate moment from the past that can only be solved by someone reading lots of old newspaper clippings, and that's why they're bullying/murdering people. However, they just end up killing everyone who comes along because they're terrible at ghosting. A lot of scenes remind me of Kenny as a ghost yelling frantically at Cartman in the South Park movie. In this specific case, though, the ghosts or demons or whatever are in fact the villains. They were inhabiting the body of a young girl until a doctor in the 1950s came along and figured out how to extract them. Now they want back in, but are of course trapped in the mirrors and need someone to go find that person so they can climb back inside her and flop around like pure nutty evil doing nothing of consequence. I saw Mirrors when it was first released and was disappointed with it, mainly because as a huge fan of 24, I felt like this performance from Sutherland was nothing we weren't seeing week to week on his show. Kiefer really put a lot of acting effort into the role of Jack Bauer, believe it or not, and at the time this just seemed like Jack Bauer in a ghost story where he's able to actually swear instead of just shouting damn it all the time. Now that 24 is off the air and I'm reminiscing about how good it used to be, Jack Bauer in a ghost story where he's able to actually swear instead of just shouting damn it all the time is exactly what I want. One of the great things Kiefer is able to do throughout this movie is really sell the jump scares. He would do this thing on 24 when he'd suddenly leap into action or tase a telephone when he didn't like what the president was telling him on the other line, blurting out this kind of black sound, and that's what he does here whenever his character is startled. And it's fantastic every single time it happens.
Ben!
Just leave me alone.
He probably broke the mirror into pieces so he'd have something to cut himself with. 7 years bad luck?
You okay, Ben?
As I rewatched this, I had a brief thought of how I wish they'd tied this into Poltergeist 3 somehow. I mean, I don't like Poltergeist 3, in fact I think it's pretty terrible, but they both use mirrors for the evil stuff, and it would have been at least an interesting reference. Hell, the human villains from both films even share the same name. I know it's a silly idea, but whatever, could have been something. Maybe I'll write some fanfic. Mirrors attempt some interesting universe building, but it in no way stands up to any kind of scrutiny, and the film gets less interesting the further along it goes, but for the most part, Kiefer's performance, a pretty great score, a well-played ending, and some really decent spooky stuff in the first half make this a mild recommendation.
Some of the bad guys keep getting away. Who you gonna call? Jack Bauer. He'll get shit done.